All right, today we are diving into an absolute classic. We're talking about a play from 1775 that has been making people laugh out loud for, well, nearly 250 years. It's Richard Brinsley Sheridan's masterpiece, The Rivals. And trust me, this comedy has a satirical bite that is just as sharp today as it was way back when.
So, to really wrap your head around what makes this play tick, I want you to try something. Picture your favorite sitcom, the one with all the crazy romantic mix-ups, the totally over-the-top characters, and those zingy one-liners. Got it? Okay, now just imagine all of that, but set in 1775. That's it. That is the brilliant, chaotic, hilarious energy of The Rivals.
Okay, before we go any further, there's a key term we've got to unpack: comedy of manners. So what is that exactly? Well, think of it as a special kind of play that uses razor-sharp wit, not just for a cheap laugh, but to poke fun at the, let's say, absurd social rules and habits of the super wealthy. It's all about exposing hypocrisy, but with a clever, witty smile. And a really great way to think about this play is to imagine it as a kind of satirical mirror, It holds itself up to 18th century high society and reflects this very polished, very proper surface, but it also cleverly distorts that reflection just enough to show you all the ridiculous flaws and silly secrets hiding right underneath.
All right, so let's step right up to this mirror. What exactly does it show us about life back then? So, the whole story takes place in a city called Bath. And let me tell you, in the 18th century, Bath was the place to be. It was this super fashionable resort town, basically. The perfect stage for the rich and famous to see and be seen. This is where you'd go to gossip, to set up strategic marriages, and, just generally show off how important you were. The location isn't just a background, it's practically a character in itself, fueling all the drama. And Sheridan's mirror? Oh, it zooms in on some really specific, kind of ridiculous social habits. For instance, it absolutely skews the materialism of the time, where marriage was basically a business deal. It makes fun of the wild gossip culture, the totally foolish but fashionable trend of dueling to solve your problems, and even a kind of parenting that was all about harsh authority instead of, affection. And this quote from one of the servants in the play just nails it perfectly. I mean, Sheridan is so clever here. He has a servant, of all people, point out that the people in high society are only ever thinking about their own fun. It just goes to show you the satire is baked into every single layer of this story.
Okay, so now let's peek behind the curtain a bit and look at the machinery of this satirical mirror. How does it all work? Well, the plot itself is just this brilliant comic engine, specifically designed to get all these characters tangled up in their own silliness.
The whole thing is driven by this incredible web of secrets and disguises, and it all kicks off with our hero, the very dashing Captain Jack Absolute. See, he's got a problem, a very specific and, frankly, hilarious problem.
So here's the deal. The woman Captain Absolute is in love with, Lydia Languish, is completely obsessed with cheesy romance novels. All she wants is a dramatic romantic elopement with a poor, penniless soldier she calls Ensign Beverly. Now, you ready for the twist? The delicious irony here is that Ensign Beverly is actually the very wealthy, very respectable Captain Absolute himself. He's the perfect guy her guardian wants for her, but she has no idea.
And this leads to one of my favorite lines in the whole play. He has this moment where he realizes that to win Lydia's heart as the poor Ensign Beverly, he is literally competing against himself, the wealthy Captain Absolute. I mean, how funny is that? He has become his own rival.
And believe me, the confusion does not stop there. Oh no, the whole play is just this fantastic, chaotic mess of secret love letters ending up in the wrong hands, and all sorts of mistaken identities. And it's all part of the plan, right? It's all perfectly engineered to show just how vain and foolish these characters really are.
But if this play is a satirical mirror, then we're about to meet the funhouse reflection. That most warped, distorted, and absolutely hilarious part of the whole thing. And it all comes from the play's single most famous character. Her name is Mrs. Malaprop, and she is so legendary, so iconic that she literally gave her name to a word in the English language, the malapropism. A malapropism is when you accidentally use the wrong word because it sounds a lot like the word you actually meant, and the result is usually pretty hilarious. See, Mrs. Malaprop is always trying to sound super smart and sophisticated, but she just ends up sounding completely ridiculous. For instance, she'll declare that she wants her daughter to be the pineapple of politeness. What she means is the pinnacle, but you have to admit, pineapple is way funnier. And the list just goes on and on. She talks about a nice derangement of epitaphs when what she's trying to say is a nice arrangement of epithets. It's brilliant because every single time she opens her mouth, her mixed up words show us that her mind is just as mixed up.
And here is the absolute genius of it all. Her messed up language is a perfect reflection of her messed up morals. She's a total hypocrite. She tells her niece she can't have any romance in her life, while she herself is secretly writing love letters to some guy. So you see, her flawed words perfectly mirror her flawed character.
So, this all brings us to the big question, right? Why does a play from 1775 still feel so sharp, so funny, so relevant today? How is it possible that this mirror still works after all this time?
Well, the simple answer is that it's basically a perfect comedy of manners. It just checks all the boxes. You've got that razor-sharp social satire, a super clever and fast-paced plot, characters you'll never forget, incredibly witty dialogue, and, of course, it all wraps up with a happy ending where all the chaos gets sorted out.
And what's so important to remember is that Sheridan isn't trying to, hit you over the head with some heavy moral lesson. His main goal is to entertain you. He wants us to laugh at these characters, and it's through that laughter that we start to see just how silly all of their social posturing really is.
And that, right there, is the final brilliant trick of Sheridan's mirror. The reason it still works so well is because when we look into it, we can't help but see little reflections of our own world. It leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What are the silly manners and social rules we follow today? What are our modern-day malapropisms that give away our own foolishness? In the end, The Rivals holds up a mirror not just to the 18th century, but to all of us.